My favorite thing about this video is just all of the beautiful harmonies. They're listening really well to each other. Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I am a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing Dimash and Zhang Yingxi performing Thousands of Miles, A Common Dream. If you are interested in signing up for voice lessons with me, please check out my website, vocalease.net.
这不忘的未曾留，望不断的领头鱼。
Wow, very robust, masculine, heroic kind of sound coming from him right there. I definitely associate Dimash mostly with his upper range, and so it's fun to hear different qualities of his range. The stage is awesome. It's just like such a big, well, first off, yeah, it's just huge. It's an enormous stage, but all the projections I think are really cool. I like how round his lips are with this. This is one of the things that's giving him some of that more classical kind of tone, that like Western classical music. And as he goes to the higher notes, he didn't open his mouth more. He kept it the same sort of shape that happened right below. So you can hear a slight tonal shift as he goes on that last step up. I'm going to rewind and do that again. And the E sounds quite different than the Do. And that's called a passive vowel modification, where the vowel changes audibly to the audience, but the way that you're pronouncing it doesn't change, which is a really good thing to do. Cool. So Jeang is using a lot more consonants. Dung, 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 dung kind of sound. Gives some contrast to the very flowy sound that Dimash was doing. They're definitely getting that kind of crossover sound. It's kind of like what guys like Josh Groban will go for, where there are some definite changes in style compared to actual classical music, but most people who don't really listen to classical music would listen to this and be like, wow, that's really classical. Why? Because it's a little bit of a darker sound and because there's quite a bit of vibrato. The vibrato isn't quite as even for either singer as we might expect from a professional opera singer, so that's one of the things that makes it sound a little bit more poppy. The vowels are not quite as they're just a little different, right? Like they're just different than how you might expect that other tone. Not that it's wrong, it just means that like there isn't one right way to sing, and if you are able to do it this way, like you can do everything. I don't think that's true. So it shows to me that they're quite specialized in the style of music that they are doing while still calling upon all of these different references of tonal qualities. Yeah, so like those top notes, we hear it kind of turn over, going up to the G sort of area. I want to see that part again, actually, rewinding a few seconds. In this part of his range, one of the things that makes it sound a little bit more classical as well is he's slightly adjusting his tone to make it... I've heard some people use the term conurdle, like, is this kind of sound? And there's not a lot of it, but there is just a little bit of it. And that's another thing that you hear in really high-level tenors, like classical tenors, a lot of the time. But I don't think it's my favorite approach. So if I'm going to get really nitpicky about anything he's doing, I would probably see, does he need that tonal change, or does his voice sound, just as beautiful without that little tongue tension kind of thing? But it's not like a game changer. It sounds totally fine still. Just that's a Sam has preferences kind of moment. They are definitely singing all of this 100% live, and there is no modification to them. And then we get a little bit more of that floaty angelic sound that Dimash is, in my opinion, known for. I like when they're singing together because it does show that they're listening pretty well. Jeang was using a little bit more of a legato approach versus how he was using when he was by himself, and that's because he was singing with another person and letting that change what was going on. I really liked the that tone. I think it was Jeang that did that one. Cool. Yeah, those harmonies are great. Beautiful. Yeah, that really fluty kind of countertenor sound that Dimash gets is one of the things that probably the shapes that he's using to make that, when he uses those shapes at the bottom of his range, it just sounds different, right? I don't think that he needs as much of that sort of lift at the bottom of his range, and that might be one of the things that to me sounds just like, okay, I'm trying to put on this style, but it's not like, it's good. It's pop crossover, it's classical crossover, and they sound really good together. Up to the E, so that's the high note in the Queen of the Night aria, I believe. If you've got that note, you sound that beautiful, you're probably gonna make some money. It's just quite good. He gets a tone. It sounds a little bit kind of like Mariah, but that said, all singers, when they get that high, the voice kind of loses a lot of individual characteristic and just starts sounding kind of like everyone else when they're singing that high. And a big part of that is because the harmonics are so spaced out. Like when you're singing up there, that's what, around 1200 or something hertz for the E. So the next harmonic is going to be another 1200 cycles above that, versus if we were doing something just an octave under that, then it would be a difference of 600. And so you just get a lot more events, a lot more harmonics that are in the human ear spectrum that we can actually listen to. And just taking away some of those makes them sound a little bit more similar. But he's doing it in a very beautiful way. I don't hear him introducing a lot of extra tension or anything. So well done, Dimash. And well done, CCTV, for releasing a video that is 100% unaltered. That is 100% singers singing in real life. And if they were in the room with me right now singing on both sides of my ear, I would probably have a really hard time to understand, am I listening to the recording or am I listening to the two standing on the sides of my ear, because They sound so similar because of the high fidelity of this recording and the lack of editing that they have done. My favorite thing about this video is just all of the beautiful harmonies. They're listening really well to each other. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, argue amongst yourselves, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Unless that's not what you want, you know? Sometimes people are like, have a beautiful day, and they're like, I don't want to have a beautiful day. What if I want to have a terrible day? And then it's like, okay, well, go do that as well then. And I think there is a chance some of you want to have a terrible day, so have a terrible day.